Good morning, YouTube. We are now on episode 4 of the 135i 2JZ 1M conversion. We are currently working on putting the front end on as the mechanical aspect of the vehicle is all buttoned up. So as of now, we're putting the radiator and the condenser on the vehicle. We'll be taking the condenser off as the vehicle will not have AC. We'll be putting a CSF radiator. But for now, we have to mock everything up with the core support, make sure everything fits, and then put the fan inside so we can know if all the plumbing is going to work and all the essentials with the system are going to work. So we're going to sit here and we're going to actually show you installation of everything. The radiator here, this is the core support. It's held in with 4 13 millimeters per side. You want to align this as best as you can with the mounting tabs on the frame rails. Once the mounting tabs are put on, which you can see here are the mounting points for the frame rail where the horns are. You push this forward, and then if you come over on top side here, the radiator just falls into place, just like so. And then your core support is pretty much buttoned up. Then it has 10 millimeters on the fender rails that hold everything in place. And then you can start putting all your essentials back together. So now we have the front end on, the core support is on, the radiator is on, condenser, the bolts are all bracketed down. The next step for us is the 7.5-inch race intercooler from VRSF. This is a 1,000 horsepower core. I always shoot a little higher than my expected number. I'm only planning around 850, 860 wheel with this engine with 272 cams. This intercooler uses a double stacked style of intercooling. So in theory, it is a 7-inch, and then they add another 5-inch core, so they double stack it. In the midst of this, we have to come here and we have to cut the core support plastic pretty high because this area here touches the intercooler. I'm gonna bring this up and show you. When this comes up, this is installed in this area here. As you can see, it hits, and this needs to go all the way up into this plastic point up here. So we have to chop the core support with an air saw, and then we can install this, and we are also venge and clamping everything. Intercooler is in. It is quite massive. A lot of cutting had to be done. It literally, I want to say, is probably 14 inches tall by my guesstimate. VRSF definitely did it pretty badass on this one. We changed the bolts up a little bit. We ran some extended bolts. I didn't like the screw-in style nuts and wasn't a fan. But you can clearly see how much of the core support was cut out. We're going to clean it up, drop the car, get the rest of the front end on, put the intake manifold on, and start progressing with the vehicle. So we have the radiator in, so we borrowed the radiator setup from the 335i and the fan from the 335i, and we are very lucky everything fits exactly the way it did on the other car. All we're going to do at this point is just take this stuff here, and then when we put the built motor, we will just make a whole new radiator setup. I'd rather put a little beat up of a radiator in this car because it's not making 1500 horsepower. This is just going to make 800, and it's a street car, while the other one is a full-blown drag car. We're going to pop the intake manifold on, and we're going to start buttoning up little things here and there and progress with the build. So now we have pretty much buttoned up the intake manifold. The cooling system is all connected as mentioned prior. This is the first fan gen clamp with a 335i throttle body so we can retain the factory gas pedal. We are now hybriding the factory N54 power steering pump reservoir. We chopped the line about 6 inches shorter. The power steering pump on the 2JZ has a push to lock style fitting from factory. We got this Borgeson fitting over here that converts the 3/8 into a -6. And then the -6 is going to have a push to lock 45. It's going to go down to the steering rack. And the steering rack has two fittings, the banjo bolts. This is one line. And what we're going to do is we're going to chop onto the hose, use barbs, and try to retain as much factory components and keep cost effectiveness active at all times. So this is very exciting. We have a shelf of goodies now that was just delivered to Mike. And I'm sure a lot of these parts are for my vehicle as it is. We have a lot of V-band connections for stainless steel. My hood pins here with the keys. So I have arrow catches. Hate it or love it. I think it's cool. And then a bunch of bracketing, shims, and O2 bungs and whatnot. And also, I'm excited about these. The Vibrant HD clamp assembly. So these are everything on the intercooling aspect of this is going to be done. So we have a connection from the turbo to the intercooler on the hot side, and then on the cold side we have the HD clamp on the cold side up to the throttle body, which is all going to be HD clamped as well, which is pretty darn cool. And a bunch of silicone couplers, but we will not be having any silicone on this vehicle. Then we have aluminum piping and flexors and all types of cool stuff. Super exciting. So another thing we're going to do here now is for the HD clamps to fit, we have the stock N54 electric fan. We're going to be cutting this area right here to make some room to notch it. And then on the opposing side just a little bit because the Van Gen clamps are a bit bulky. So we're going to give it some space. Okay, the provisionary cuts were made, so this area here will clear the Van Gen clamps. That's all there. We did a safety cut over here as well, and then once that's all in, we can pop this fan back into place and modify the intercooler to have all clearance and usability with no issues. Okay, so Mike took this Vibrant Van Gen clamp, I believe this is a 3-inch, and he welded it to the 335i throttle body. What I explained earlier again was you pop this pin out, and it's a double-pieced mechanism, as Mike will show us here. If you want to explain it, Mike?
Not much else to explain.
So there's O-rings that sit on each section of the pipe, and these go together like so. And this black sleeve goes in between the O-rings, and it creates a perfect seal while this clamp is here together with this pin to hold it all together. That was quite hot, by the way.
Yes.
Thanks, Mike.
You got it.
We have the power steering pretty much 90% plumbed up. We made a small little bracket over here to hold it in place. And we retained the factory reservoir. We basically used a stock line, cut it here, pushed it in, and then got a 45-degree barbed -6. Cut the power steering line to make it fit. Everything is plumbed up on the steering rack side on its own. And then we are just waiting for the line that comes underneath. We need the 183/8 barb to barb to connect with one hose. And this is pretty much plumbed up completely. But that pretty much sums it up for today. Tomorrow's Father's Day, and then we are going to continue on Monday. It is now day 4 of the intercooler plumbing. Let's turn this noisy fan off. So far, Mike, the amazing fabricator, codename Phoenix Fabricus, is making the plumbing for the intercooler. So this is the cold side so far. So we've already showed that the Van Gen clamp was done on the throttle body. And the Van Gens are done on the intercooler, hot and cold side. So now Mike is going to tack up all of the directions, you could say. And we're going to be finishing the side here. Obviously this side cannot be done yet as the manifold is not created yet. And Mike is going to be creating this part of the car here soon as the flange comes in and the rest of the weldels. And we can get continued on that and we can progress on the build. So I made a boo-boo when we were tacking everything up. I guess I had moved the pipe when we were making the time certs. So Mike is upset with me, but he's gonna redo all of the plumbing again. Sorry, Mike. I'm sorry. So this magnificent pipe of injustice has been completed by Phoenix Fabricus. If you guys don't know Mike, make sure you follow him. Handle right here. Boop. So we're gonna install this now. Everything is HD clamped. It is gonna be quite the interesting boost season coming to a theater near you. Everything pops on super easy. Everything clamps on super easy. And the greatest part, no silicone and no boost leaks. A small little thing I want to show you guys. We are currently swapping another 1 series. So this is mine with the 1M conversion. This is our customer, Kieran. Mike has already converted the subframe on this car. As you can see, the mounts are already made. It's already notched per prior video explanations. The subframe is already done. And currently, we're going to show you this part because on the 1M conversion, we already had this already mated as it was a donor. So this is the PMC to the 2JZ to the GS653BZ, not the DZ. The BZ has the input shaft inside the transmission, whereas the DZ does not. The DZ is the diesel trans. Also, what you need to do and make sure is that you have the automatic flex disc. There's 2 shims. You have one shim in the front and you have a shim in the back. make sure those are there. This is the PMC flywheel adapter. There is a bushing that needs to be hammered in for the adapter plate to mate to the input bearing, which is right here. This is the tilt and triple disc clutch. Everything is explained to you in the paperwork to make sure the discs and the floaters are facing the correct direction. And now what we're gonna do for this transmission, we're gonna have to mount the starter. We're also gonna have to notch the ears a little bit because the bolts do get in the way, and then we can mate this transmission. Just wanted to give you guys a quick little glimpse of this so you have an understanding in how it can be done. So now we're going to this little explanation here since this was already done on my car. Adapter plate, automatic flywheel, open face starter, PMC GS653BZ flywheel adapter with a tilt and triple disc. This portion has to be removed from the transmission. It is held with four T30s. Sits in there like that or somewhat like this. Comes off. This entire measurement from the base to the top should be 2.52 inches or 64 millimeters. The remaining of it has to be cut off and reinstalled. If that is not done, the snout will rest against the pressure plate and cause the clutch to disengage and not be engaged fully, or as they call it, hanging up. And as soon as you give it some gas, the clutch will slip immediately. The release bearing has to be shaved down on the low side because it's too tall when it's recessed against the release fork. And the release fork itself has to be shaved down about 1/4 inch. If you compare this one to the one you are shaving, you can see that this one is a little thinner. We painted this one to avoid any type of corrosion or whatnot. And then you reinstall everything, and then you pretty much just slide that in. It will be a little bit of a battle. Make sure you use the proper alignment tool to have all the splines inside correctly, because if you do not have them set correctly, this will definitely not align.
Okay, so what we have going on here is we are building a custom turbo manifold. The manifolds that we have in the shop either did not work or did not fit properly for our application, so we are going to be building one. We ordered all the components, 6-into-1 merge collector, billet exhaust flange, and all of the weld L's from Treadstone, and we are going to be building our own exhaust turbo manifold. What we have going on here right now is we have the turbo tacked into place with just a little support bar here, and that is going to support the merge collector and the exhaust flange and keep it in place where we want it while I go ahead and build all the runners.
So Mike has pretty much almost tacked up the whole manifold. Everything here is going to a 6-to-1 merge collector. Fits very well with the EFR. The plate that holds the flange in place where we need it. This is a nice billet flange. And it's going to be all welded out here soon and put on the car. The wastegate's going to come out from here over. It's going to be a nice Turbo Smart 45 millimeter. It's going to be very interesting to see. So the manifold is 90% completed.
99% completed.
99% completed to Mike's words, because the 1% is going to be the wastegate. It's going to be coming up from this point. And Mike and I discussed about putting it pretty much right there, uniform with the turbo for a cosmetic appeal. We're going to powder coat the ring purple. This is going to stay black, and we're going to ceramic coat this black. This will be black, manifold will be black, turbo with plumbing will be purple. It's going to come out very pretty. So Mike is going to do that tomorrow. He's going to do the wastegate merge, the downpipe, the dump, intercooler plumbing, and when all that is completed, we're going to powder coat it all, and then Mike can go start working on the rest of the items. The car is only 10% completed so far, but we're getting there.
Getting there.
But it's going to be a bad girl. We're looking very forward to getting this going. Good job, Mike.
Thank you, sir.